there is no longer monopoly of anything. People can learn anything. Most of the photographers in this country are self-taught, even if I teach. Most of them are self-taught. YouTube and buying tutorials, downloading tutorials. So everybody today can be anything. I have seen doctors Googling. It's at that point where you have to look for ways to differentiate yourself. Technology is an enabler. You must be solving a problem. You must be responding to a need. You must fill a gap. 2017 was one of the hardest moments. I remember I delayed salary for one of my employees. Then I came in the morning. Nikakuta amebeba iMac.
Amejilipa. Good evening and welcome to the Late Night Business. My name is Ian Dennis, and as always tonight we have a very interesting show lined up because I'm going to be talking to a gentleman who at one point worked for the organization that's streaming this, Standard Group, and he's going to be taking us through his particular journey as a creative and also as a photographer. So quite excited about this particular show that you have lined up. But before we get to start the show, as always, we want to remind you that we're here at the Capital Club, the place you need to be as an entrepreneur, because at the Capital Club, one thing that we always say is your network is your net worth. At the Capital Club, you have the opportunity to meet so many different particular corporate leaders and leaders who are actually part of this particular club. So by being a part of the Capital Club, you can be able to join this particular network. As always, I also want to remind you, 2 of my books are actually out. You can get them at the Textbook Center. One, Food for Thought, thoughts, reflections around life and business, and the other, Business Conquest, how exactly can you win in the journey called business. The gentleman I'm actually speaking about and I'm about to have a conversation with is called Mr. Steven Deritu, who's the creative director of Photo Magic. I actually just bumped into him the other week and I was quite excited. I was like, you need to come to my show. Finally, thanks so much for having come.
Asante.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Oh, the first question I like starting all the conversations. What exactly are you most grateful for today?
I think I'm very grateful. I think we're living in a very difficult time right now in this country because of floods and ripple effects of those floods.
But at least you're here.
Sijabebwa, but man, sometimes you think that some things are very far away from you, but at least I'm grateful for being alive, being healthy, a roof over my head, my family. I think that's at the heart of it, because a lot has happened. It's just good to be, you're very happy to be alive today, in the midst of all this too much water.
No, it's true, yeah.
Yeah.
And in that particular reflection, because I think there's so much that's been happening, and primarily, I think I just one of those particular periods. What's your reflection of this particular period? Just as you mentioned, you're just glad to be alive, but what's your deep reflection of this period? Maybe being as an entrepreneur, being a father, being a husband.
My reflections would be, maybe I'll say 3 or 4 things just about that. Number one, just generally as human beings, fundamentally, we are on borrowed time. The other day I was with my friend, then we were supposed to meet, then he's like, no, I have to go to cops, see the police, because a wall at my construction site collapsed and somebody, I think the guard or somebody died.
Oh.
And now it's a police case and something like that. So it was like we were saying, you think this is so far, but it's so near. At the same time, as a country, I think we are in a space where we are facing, half of the problems we are facing are basically because of poor leadership and corruption. They could have been avoided. Decades of bad policy or lack of implementation of policy. So it's a good time to just sit and ask ourselves as citizens and leaders, what's the price? What's the price that we're paying for corruption, poor leadership, lack of accountability? And then number 3 is the heart of humanity is supporting and helping people who are in need. So it's just been in the last 1 week that people have started raising funds since the flood started.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, everybody has a till number and pay bill number. But it's also a good time. Those who have, those who can, they support those who don't have, because today it's me, tomorrow it's you. Yeah.
I'll just take you back, because I know your journey has been quite a long period of time. I think it's almost 2 decades in this particular industry that you're actually in. And one of the interesting that I found out is that you're from the Alliance. And from the D-U-N, I think there's always this essence of pride of people who went to this school.
Yes,
Maybe before that.
In fact, when you were at the UN, guys used to say, it's the only place you'll find the highest number of intellectuals per square meter at the University of Nairobi.
And then beyond that, it's Siaya. You may throw a stone and hit an engineer.
Yes, or a doctor or a lawyer. Trust me, man.
Why did you grow up, first of all? And how was your upbringing?
I grew up maybe until class 3 in a place called Kiganjo, around the police college. Yeah. That's where my parents were. They are both teachers. Most of their career. Yes. No. So that was our neighborhood was around the economy, the friendships, the homes. Everything was around the police college. Yeah. Then in '88 we hammered to a place called Naromoru, up on the slopes of Mount Kenya. Yeah, we are the last people just before the forest.
That's how you're leading to Nanyuki.
Yes. So grew up in the village, very nice country life. Everything that people talk about village living, which I miss a lot and I love a lot and treasure a lot. So grew up there. Around class 7 went to boarding school by force. So yeah, Naromoru was a place where I grew up next to the forest. Grew up in a place where I tell people who know me, they know my dad's farm was on the path of elephants. So almost every year elephants used to pass by there. They chokoza our cabbages and maize a little bit. Then they go. I never saw any of those elephants because I was the last born. I was the last born. I just used to hear stories in the morning. So yeah, that's where I grew up. Yeah.
And you mentioned both of your parents were teachers. So how is it growing up with parents who were teachers? Was it a strict, or were they very hands-on in terms of academia? How was it?
My mother was very strict. You know, those days, a teacher is a teacher of everybody. So you're on the front line. Front line of being chapward, front line of discipline. I was mischievous, so I got beaten almost every day. My dad, and I don't regret the discipline that I got from my mother. Perhaps one of the best things that's happened to me. My dad played a very big role because he's Kizungu, Swahili teacher. One of the things I treasure a lot is that while I was in boarding school, my dad used to send me briefs for composition. I write. That was around 92, 93. Send by a post, he marks and sends them back. And after many years, I've come to appreciate that one of the skills that gives me an edge in my career is writing. My dad was also very good in keeping records. I still have those compositions. Kizungumbaya. Like I still have them written in pencil. So one of the things that my dad helped me a lot is writing. I notice when I'm working in this media space, I tell people, do this, write it down for me. Hey, it's just somebody, trouble, stress, blood pressure, Not a lot of people can do that. And so he used to do that a lot. He used to correct our English a lot. Used to buy newspapers for reading and a lot of magazines, not just Parents and Weekly Review, a lot of magazines about psychology. So I also acknowledge my dad because he helped me to read a lot. I've stopped reading. These days mostly I prefer watching because or listening to podcasts because I can do it because I do something else. But my dad is a toxic reader, so you can imagine telling me to read. Man, John C. Maxwell in class 7, tough.
The 7 laws and all that.
Yes, also 7 habits of in class 7. Okay, not that he forced me to read, but I'm just like, hey, why is my dad reading this series of books so much? So you start reading, you may not comprehend some of that stuff, but that was good. And of course, my dad was a teacher, but he was also a priest, the PCA church.
Oh, so your dad was a teacher and a priest?
Yes. In the PCA church, there's something called, they are called tent makers. Paul the Apostle didn't used to ask for tithes and offerings because he made his own money through making tents. So the name they use in the PCA church is tent maker. So my dad was a tent maker. It means on weekdays he's busy teaching and weekends anaenda kuhubiri neno. So
it was my academic and spiritual.
Yes. So we have grown up in the church. It saved us a lot of problems, you know, just learning ethics of life, and all of us in our family, you know, four of us, the siblings, we really appreciate, because kuna when it protects you from just certain things of life. Not that you're waterproof from that, but they brought us in the ways of God, and it was a good foundation.
And in just recounting it, because I always know that your upbringing literally shapes your foundation, primarily to who you are today. Just looking back in retrospect, what would you say are some of the lessons that you gained from your parents that actually have enabled you to be where you are today?
Maybe there are two main lessons from both of my parents. My mother is generous to a fault, up to today.
But your mom was also part of the PCA, the guys.
Yes, Women's Guild.
Yes.
My mom's. I mean, even today, you know, if there's an event,
I know they're always so strong.
Lazima, yes. She's a bit sick because she's old and frail a little bit. But when it's Sunday, lazima tamfunga kitambaa, she will go with it. She was in the Women's Guild, but she was also in the Sunday school. So she used to organize. You know, she was a leader, the Sunday school program in the church. Which actually in the PCA they call it church school. So they like planning all those activities. You know, they even have like drama festivals and music festivals in the church. So she was very crucial, like around our parish and home church. My mom was generous to a fault. And even today, when she's maybe just collecting her pension and a little money from home, maybe from us, her children, if somebody comes home and they have a need, she will sort that person. And it made me learn that you're only a steward of the stuff that you have. You know, we have a bad habit of this world. We are all trying to accumulate wealth.
We'll eventually just go to this
what one always, I mean, how many cars can you drive? How many homes can you live in? How much money can you really have? And you don't need to be a multi-millionaire to just help somebody, you know. So even in these days when people are dishonest, sometimes, you know, taking advantage of you to give, but I learned to give and share, support people, because you're just a steward. Leo ni mimi, kesho ni wewe. That's my mom. I think my dad, the thing I learned from my dad is something called a patience. My dad is the most cool, calm, and collected person I know. In the middle of a storm, like I have never seen my dad lose his cool, ever. So, and I think even my siblings tell me I'm my father's son, you know. So I learned from him, like even in terms of, I have some of my friends, you know, when things are really thick, they're like, wewe nderito, nini mbaya na wewe? Like things are, the house is about to collapse and you're just here. But I learned it from my dad, you know. I've never seen him. He keeps his cool. I think it helps to mitigate any effects that may happen from because when people ukianza kujam nini, you know, pressures inapanda, then first you have to deal with the effects of anger and very high emotion or uncontrolled emotion, and then now we come back to the problem where you left it.
Because nothing would have changed. And then a gentleman from the village eventually finds himself in the alliance. How was that particular moment for you, and how was the experience in alliance? Were you that always just sharp nudge?
I was sharp in the village.
The sharpest in the village.
Yes, until you go and find now the other guys in high school, then
they're much sharper.
I remember out of 180, range yangu ilikuwa 100, 120. For that was my position.
You're 180, and then the ranking within the school.
Yes, we were around 180 guys who joined the Alliance High School in 1995. So my region yangu ya max ilikuwa between, or rather position out of 120. That's
A minus.
No. Our time A's were hard to get. Yeah, so cause me I got a B plus. Those days that was 700, it was 550. But there's a part I really appreciate. You know those things your parents do for you when you're growing up, and you don't appreciate. When my dad threw me to boarding school here in Makuyu near Thika, then I think it was Murang'a or Maragua, whatever district. My dad was an education person, because even when he retired, he left teaching. He became an inspector of schools. So he knew that it was called the quota system for joining schools. So he knew in Nyeri it was too competitive. A cousin of mine who got 570 didn't go to a national school. Me who was in Muranga district got 550 and went to a national school. So my dad threw me into a district.
Oh, so it was very strategic.
So that, yes, alikuwa nataka niende Alliance. And for sure I did. I think I went through a provincial intake or something. I don't understand. So it was good. And the school transformed my life. Like, it a leap from here to here in all ways. Kutoka kwa ushago na accent funny. You know, I remember first class saying, reading comprehension and saying, are you? Then my teacher told me, you don't say are you, you say are you, you know, those kind of things. Meeting all sorts of people. I mean, meeting guys from Northeastern when Northeastern was Northeastern, meeting guys from far-flung areas, Kilifi, where, and debunking this ethnic biases that we have. You know, unasemanga sijui watu wanakuanga, we are red blood in our veins, everybody. You know, it helped me, expose me to a lot of things. Perhaps privilege of a national school. You know, things like music, getting myself into music. I got a chance to do do a vernacular poem until nationals. Mara yangu ya kwanza basement KICC. Playing badminton in Form 3 until nationals. Being the school choir. Exposing myself to good art training. Because art is expensive, especially in teaching materials.
Oh, so you also learned to do art?
Yes. I did art. I was the only art student in Form 3 and Form 4.
Oh, so that's where the interest in creative design came about?
Yes. That time. Right. So it was, those 4 years were very transformative. They were worth it. It was worth every pain that I went through in a boarding school in the middle of Kichaka, back in Makuyu. So it was, I think that's where one of the biggest transformations of my life was, in terms of preparing me for life and exposing me to a lot of things, like really, really hands-on.
And from the Alliance, from you always presumed everybody in the national school goes on to do STEM, become a doctor and the likes. You wanted to become a creative designer. First of all, how was that decision taken by your parents? And how did you want to go pursue this? Because I remember back in the days, your parents always wanted to become a doctor, become an engineer, become this. You wanted to go to Nairobi University to become a creative designer. Why?
Now, many people don't know some really little beginning about my art career, creative career. My big brother, who's way older than me, because now he's 9 years. Yes, I'm the last one. So the first one in our family is my brother. Growing up, my brother could draw calligraphy with those felt pens, ones with a squared, with a chiseled tip. He could write calligraphy very well. My brother could draw cars, could draw buses. Those days, those buses that you hear about, you know, perhaps the only remaining ones is Eldoret Express, a few of them maybe. So I got an interest in drawing. That's where everything started. So I started drawing. Those days, Safari Rally was used to go in many places. So we used to see them. They used to pass through Mount Kenya, that side. So I used to draw. If I don't draw from seeing, from the newspaper. As I said, my dad used to buy newspapers every day. So I started, and I got an interest because of my brother. It's not that I knew what art was, but when I went to high school, we had the options. You know, those subjects then, there was German, French, music, art, drawing, and design. So I remember going to music first term. But then, Roho akaniambia, I go back to art. So I left music and went back to art. I did not have a very clear picture of the future of art, but I remember watching TV and seeing like motion graphics then, and you don't want to know how they used to make motion graphics that time. You can imagine in the 90s, it was very, compare then and now, so much has changed. So, but I knew the most advanced graphic I knew was magazine, newspaper, Nazile wall hangings, those ones put in the house. But I knew I wanted to do art, and it was so resolute. We were around, I think, 10 or 12, Form 1 and Form 2. When we were now choosing what to specialize in Form 3, everybody went to drawing and design so that they can become architects. and I was left alone to do art. So we used to have one-on-one with one very famous.
Oh, so the only one?
Yes, I was the only one.
So from 3 and from 4, you're the only one doing art?
It was me and the teacher. It's called Mr. Okwaro.
So you're the only one who sat for art,
yes.
the whole school?
Yes.
And then, now making that transition, so you went to University of Nairobi, and one of your first assignments after the University of Nairobi was with the Standard Group.
Yes.
Which year was that, and how was that experience?
Just before, I just know it was just before PV, because I left the Standard Group after Postal. So it was 2006, 2007. It was at the Standard Group. It was kuambio sana. It was working in media, man. It's crazy.
I said you only worked for a year.
For which one?
At the Standard Group, you only worked for a year.
Yes, 1 year. Everywhere I worked for 1 year.
Why exactly was that?
I think I wasn't made for employment. I wasn't made for employment. Already on my second job, luckily I don't think I'm an everyday graphic designer. You know, I never felt settling. I don't like settling. So the first job, already I'm getting another opportunity. First place I worked for 11 months, and to Parents Magazine 13 months, Standard Group 1 year. Actually at Standard Group I wanted to leave. I wanted to start my business. I had registered another business because on some months I was already making more money than my salary. And then we used to clash a lot with my boss then at the Standard Group because I needed my time to do my other side jobs so that I can make my money. And then I remember I had started photography a little bit. I had always had a curiosity about photography. But at Standard Group it was good because it also exposed me now to so many other things that became very critical in my career. I got to interact now when I'm to see writing and visual design and how they meet. I used to interact na keti hapo na editors. I see what they are doing. You know, I see how the stories, the workflow. I also got to learn more design skills because we are many designers. You know, the one you've learned, and you know those days I don't even think YouTube was there. Learned a little bit. Now you come here, there are designers who know more than you. We anajua ile, the other one knows that. So it was also a significant point. Perhaps one of the biggest thing, maybe you didn't know, my interaction a lot with one Boniface Mwangi, who became one of my closest brothers from another mother in my life. His interaction and his style of photography and being sent to Northeastern or wherever, and he also used to file a story, silently inspired me into photography because we used to interact a lot. I remember even him, he was on his way out that time. So it was also one of the most influential moments in terms of my photography. Of course, you see, I'm a graphic designer, but most people know me as a photographer. And it was that important. Not to forget that a lot of unpublished details about post-election violence.
So that means we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back and just try to find out how this particular transition happened from just being a graphic designer, transition also from the employment world into his own particular enterprise came about. So I'll see you after the break. Welcome back to the show. Before we went on the break, Nderitu just taking us through the metamorphosis of his journey, all the way from Narumoro, coming all the way to Alliance, found himself into the Standard Group, found himself into the photography world, courtesy of influence from Boniface Mwangi. Actually, that's how we actually met. We bumped into his office and we caught up there. And then, so you're just taking us through in terms of how this interest in photography came about, and also how you evolved in terms of your graphic designs through interactions within the newsroom while working at the Standard Group. And then something that you also had mentioned earlier on is that you started becoming very, what's it called? You wanted to do so many different things, and you had this urge to go into entrepreneurship. How did you make this move? Because I know it's usually such a huge step. Moving from employment whereby you have a guaranteed salary, even despite you having different hustles. How was this particular transition for you?
I think subconsciously, already from my first job. The first job you go, you are, in fact, I remember my dad, when we graduated in 2004, July, I went home for 3 months. And then I told my dad, buy for me a computer. I go to Nairobi. Nitajipa. And he bought me. He bought me a computer. I went to live with my friend, and then he was staying in Madare Area 4. He had a job already.
Then, the computers of the Pentium 4s. I
don't even go there. I remember even buying na TV card. You guys use TV card, so that you can have FM and analog TV, all watch it on your computer. The screen.
And you went to Madare?
Yes, but Area 4. Area 4 is like...
the up and down. Madare is TV
vendor. So my best friend then from high school. He was my best friend from high school and campus. We both studied graphic design together. So I went Akani Shelter. So he's one who. So with the computer, I knew I'll start looking for graphic. You can't. Then graphic design, there was even no Canva. Where's it cost some little work. So I came to Nairobi. Then one day, I think I was in a cyber. I was reading a newspaper. So a classified job, got the first job, got the second job. On my second job, one way or another, people had already started noticing my skills. I think my friends and people who know my work have told me my work is amazing. So people will look for you, do work. Then I met a certain lady who used to run a printing press in downtown Nairobi. And she told me, Steve, why are you employed? Your work is so good. You need to think about how to start your own business. That was another small but very major trigger. And I started shift mind totally. So every time, even when I moved to the Standard Group, it was supposed to be my last place. I got a little bit into loggerheads with the leadership then at the Standard Group. There were rumors I was supposed to be fired, by the way, at that time. So I registered my business. And I knew that I wanted to do my own things. From the money I was making on the side, I bought a camera, 170,000 in 2007. I started taking pictures, weddings free of charge, portraits, just going to places, go to Karen Blixen Museum, Railway Museum, take pictures. Narudi ushago, naenda kwa forest, napiga tu nature. And then I planned to quit employment. In fact, the job I got after Standard Group, I left it to go for a lesser pay at Daystar, but because I knew I would have the space to start my own business. And I knew I'll take exactly 1 year. In fact, one of my friends who hired me at Daystar, I told him that story the other day, and he was like, he's just got into entrepreneurship the other day, like full time. I was like, now when he's seeing all this, it's like, I was wondering why you were so resolute when you left. Because I just told the guys, I'm leaving next month. And I was like, we're naenda wapi? And
so you had already planned yourself for this particular transition through the period, or how?
Yes. When I was doing in Daystar, I knew I wouldn't stay there. I actually stayed for exactly 1 year. I went 1 month before graduation. I left after graduation. I couldn't leave. Graduation is the busiest time at Daystar. I was a graphic designer in corporate affairs, so that time. And I was already having work.
So you already built yourself some portfolio and some
then
clients.
I had a partner then, a lady we were with at design school, so she was handling what I couldn't handle. We were already established. So my work was to go and do my work during the day, and then early in the morning, late at night, work on our clients' work and panga business. So that transition was necessary. Maybe to mention, the photography part was one of the biggest consumers of photography is graphic design. Actually, maybe half of the pictures that are taken are used by graphic designers. So nilikuwa naumia sana just looking for good pictures. So I come to your restaurant, you have bad photos for your food. So I needed photography to support my work, which was a good.
So it was everything was just supporting each other. So you made this particular transition and eventually set up Photo Magic. Why did you decide to go that route? Because primarily you are a designer, you had this interest in this interest in photography. Why did you choose now to fully pursue this as compared to?
You see, around 2008, I registered Pink Food Consult, which is a creative business, graphic design, newsletters, all that, mostly designed for print. So Pink Foot was a business. Actually, photography was, for me, was just a support. I usually tell guys, photography was a hobby that just spinned out of control. You know, it was for fun. It was a passion. My dad owned a film camera. So I had already enjoyed photography. My dad gave me that film camera in high school, Form 4. So it was not exactly new. In 1969, my dad was a chief photographer of the school newsletter.
Your dad has done so many things.
Yes. No, in 1969, he was a chief photographer of the newsletter at Kagumo Teachers College as a student. So, what a so many destiny. So for me, photography was a hobby. But then I started taking, like, I remember my first serious wedding was 2009. Then people started telling me, no, you need to come take pictures. Can I come to open a studio? Then in the business arrangement plan, I decided I have to separate. So that's why I registered Photo Magic Studio so that it can handle photography. And then I remained with Pink Foot so that it can handle, because I think at the heart of all businesses, and this is a lesson even that was confirmed in my mind later in Shark Tank, scalability. You know, for me, it saved me in terms of scalability, that I could delegate and I could separate the two, so that I mean, I can't just do the agency and find a photo.
So you managed now to set up 2 companies to build it. And then back days, because back then it was the film era, then the digital era came, and then now we're in the mirrorless era. Things have been changing in terms of
mirrorless and phone era,
and even phone era. First of all, when you're setting up, because I know photography equipment have been quite expensive, so you're transitioning from employment to now go set up a business. How did you go about the issue of capital? How did you go about now building this particular infrastructure? Because it's always an impediment for many.
Those days I don't think I askungangana sana. No, the business was generally okay. I happened to, there was this friend of mine who was giving me work in one of the top motor companies, motor dealerships in this country. So I used to design for them adverts for the newspaper, like 2-3 adverts a week, or no, maybe say like 4, 5, 6 a month. So that was the first client that I got. Then he went and got a job in a big government agency, and he helped me. Like one of the things I think I have noticed the client wants, every client wants somebody who will take the stress, nitole stress. In other words, I say cover for people's inefficiencies. So this guy knew he could give me a brief and I'll sort everything. He doesn't have to explain a lot of things, which is something that lacks in a lot of creatives. You know, a lot of creatives and artists are excellent in technical skills. But then information processing, synthesizing, interpreting briefs, or coming with briefs, or having to research so that you know what does a client really want. So, and I think that guy saw that in me. And within a span of 2 years, I was like the agency. In fact, I think kwa Kikuyu tunasemanga kutoa ugali hapa. Hiyo job nilitoa hapa kwa one of the big agencies. I think it was Y&R or something. I was doing work for that parastatal. And I started doing a lot of photography, a lot of design, all the design work, calendar, everything. We were the ones who were doing. So having such a client, your business is, at least you know you're sorted. So although I took a loan from Coop Bank now to buy computers, when you start hiring designers, but it wasn't a strain. We are getting good business, the business was growing, then photography started bringing business, I started getting hired for weddings. So it was a good growth curve that time. However, equipment, siku hizo hakukuwa equipment. There are no shops. It was very hard to, it's not like today. If your camera gets broken or something, if you want to buy a lens, we were not even exposed. It's not like today. You know this whole globalization and internet has made you know what's happening in a village in remote Australia, because of the internet. So that time it was a struggle getting equipment. You had to ship in stuff. Shipping in stuff was not as easy as it is today. Even innovation-wise, today, especially after COVID, in our media space, any gadget you dream of, it's there.
Yeah.
Anything. I mean, I'm looking at what some of this, you know, the mics that guys are using, easy to use, plug and play. That time,
Just
things were
different.
lenses, cameras, cleaning cameras, you know, ilikuwa maisha ngumu. Maisha ngumu.
And because you've been in this particular industry for, what's it called, almost close to 2 decades, what else you see, what's it called, besides the technology changes that have actually happened, what has actually happened in terms of the business model? Because right now you're seeing everybody can now become a photographer, everybody in town is actually a photographer, everybody can become a videographer. The industry, so many people are actually into this particular industry. In terms of your outlook of this particular industry, what can one actually do in order for them to strive? Because right now competition is extremely high.
From when we started, I think as guys started on, you know, now they even named the software by the years, Photoshop 2023.
Yeah.
As guys started, I think we joined when it was Photoshop 6. As Kitambo, that's around 204. It was so different. Personally, before I learned Adobe, I used to design using PowerPoint and MS Word, using Word Art, if you know those
I know you can
presets, you know. But now, we were the designers, you are the news presenter, you know, you're the cameraman, Today there's liberalization. And let me tell you, not just in media, all industries. Today, and perhaps not pulling the cart before the horse, with at the tip of technology, AI, the tip, nobody can boast of monopoly of any knowledge, maybe experience. And then, a friend of mine called George says, AI is like consulting 1,000 people with PhDs.
Yeah.
So there is no longer monopoly of anything. People can learn anything. Most of the photographers in this country are self-taught, even if I teach. Most of them are self-taught. YouTube and buying tutorials, downloading tutorials. So everybody today can be anything. I have seen doctors Googling, even before like internet became the internet. I have sat a doctor, I saw them trying to Google that kona. So in the media space, but they don't know everything. They don't know everything. So it's at that point where you have to look for ways to differentiate yourself, come up with products that solve solutions, or if it's entertainment, you have really to have just a unique thing, whether it's Crazy Kenna type or the other. There's this guy who wears those yellow clothes. Jamaa anakimbianga amevaa nguo zinakaa za mtoto na flippers, You've seen him. Yes, his name starts with a D. That, you know, you have to come up with a different thing. And then also the broad space, even of like your, you know, I'm sure your media house agrees, you know, the broad space where now you're so big, now has to go back to niche, you know, to an area of speciality, either in agriculture or you're in finance and business, or you are in infrastructure tech, you know, you have to pick that space. And now everybody, your phone can take pictures. And if you post it and the one I've taken with the camera, people will be at a loss to tell which is which. And that's the reality. It's a painful place to be in. You guys in your station, you want to give us news. I want to wait for 9 o'clock. But the famous bloggers have already fed us. They are verified. You know. So it's transformed, and the transformation is not about to stop. But definitely the scale will settle at some point. So I think my overall view is we have to keep up. Na inahemesha pia. Hey, like it's just the transformation is just too fast to kind of try to keep up, but they're also good because they are giving opportunities.
So being in this particular journey for this long period of time, which is not easy for so many people, what will you say has been your most difficult moment, and how did you actually encounter it? How did you counter it?
I think in this country, one of the worst things in business space, I don't know if it's only in this country, maybe it's around the world, the election cycle. Every election cycle, business goes down, like seriously. Politics affects business very badly, whether before or after. The fear of, I remember like 2017 was one of the hardest moments, because I ran my business with my wife. So 2017, tulibaki.
Oh really?
Me and my wife. You know, it was very hard. It was very hard. I remember I delayed salary for one of my employees. Then I came in the morning, nikakuta amebeba iMac.
Amejilipa.
You know, and he's one of the best guys. But I understand, actually. I don't because eventually we reconciled. But it was, you know, I delayed the salary for 3 months. Then in the morning I walked in, I'm like, what's missing? Then he told me, hey, hapana ndelito bana, wewe nilipe pesa yangu. You know, then I had to ask a friend, hey, lipa said, now we can't even work. But 2017 was one of the worst years because of elections. And then it also takes time. It takes time for business to go back to where it's supposed to. And then perhaps even worse, the corruption. Me country, the worst thing that ever happened to this country called Kenya is the level of corruption. Corruption is everywhere. You know, I tell people, even uko kwa Jesus, there are guys who are saying, can you just ensure that my sons will be next to you? Hiyo pia ni nini? Kusukupa kakitu, you know, but corruption may be everywhere, but then the level of corruption in our country is just too expensive. Because there are even times I get it's called an RFQ. You'll see on email, because like I've really invested in SEO. So you get a lot of like blind emails or other people who just found us on the internet, they send us request for quotation. Lakini saa zingine naangalia tu naona hapa mimi nasindikiza mtu. You're being asked for a quotation,
but you're just being used.
And we know that our work is good. We've gone to places, you pitch, and then you realize, or even you can't pitch because
just pitch deck.
there are people, the best don't get rewarded. You know, and it's not, merit doesn't count. We've seen that in appointments. We've seen that in business, such that we have put who do you know on a pedestal more than just quality work.
Unfortunate.
So you really have to struggle. And that is why you find even sometimes inaweza kudepress watu kidogo, because there are people who've worked, they are good at what they do, but then they have to struggle so much. And again, it's in our wasanii, in our creative industry, music, wherever, you know, all that. So it's also made us now we have to pia lazima ukuwe mjanja, so that you know.
You have to just know how to play the game. And then just one of the final question I'd like to ask, because you've been seeing, especially the technology disruption has been happening extremely fast. So when you got into the industry, I think mulikuwa mnaosha film, and then you got into digital camera. Right now you're seeing the, what's it called, AI is coming into place now, you can create pictures and all that stuff. So what do you think is the next, what's the future? What's the future of the industry? What do you see is going to happen? Will you need photographers in the future? Will you need creatives in the future?
It's hard to predict with technology because it's surprising us every day. But I think the core things, critical things is we have to keep up. We have to keep up with the technology. Personally, I have taken it upon myself. I have to keep up. I cannot afford, because we are in an industry that is very technologically dependent. So I have to keep up. In 2020, I think in 2 months of COVID, I got into live streaming. I didn't know anything about live streaming. I sought information, asked friends, got into it. My siblings who are abroad sent me equipment, you know, and we were among the first people that got into it. Sai kila mtu ameingia. But I believe that like during that time, it helped keep my business afloat. Right now it's extremely competitive. Everybody's doing it. Even one-man show. Tunaweza enda peke yake na laptop na kamera moja. They charge 15,000. But it helped me to create new opportunities for ourselves. So technology is an enabler. It's an enabler. Eventually you must have an idea, you must have a concept, you must have something different. You must be solving a problem. You must be responding to a need. You must fill a gap to have something solid in terms of business. You know, because picha watu watapiga, video watu watapiga, everything people will do. But then if you respond to a need, fill a gap, solve a problem, remove a certain stress in people's lives, using technology and the cameras and the information you share, because cameras just, we are just sharing information. I think that's where hapo ndio tuta differentiate.
Hapo ndio junction.
Yes.
Interesting. And just before we end, I have like 10 quick fire questions, so answer whatever that comes to your mind. What's the greatest risk you've ever taken?
Getting married.
It's a risk.
Yep.
You got into the prison. Why do you say that interestingly?
I thought it was quick fire.
Oh, so I need to quickly move on.
Yes.
You got me there. Interesting. What's your hidden talent?
Ooh, conflict resolution.
Money or happiness?
Money.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
The extrovert.
Would you rather travel to the past or to the future?
Future.
What do you think the meaning of life is?
Happiness.
See, marriage. How do you start your day?
Ooh, bafu. Bafu.
Alafu nafanyia watu bafu chafu. That's been quite an interesting conversation with Mr. Stephen Derechu, who's the creative director of Photo Magic, who is actually into photography, live streaming, content creation, and everything in and around the creative world. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Also, as always, we're coming to you from the Capital Club, the place you need to be as an entrepreneur, because at the Capital Club, there's so many different amenities that you can actually get access. You can literally spend your whole day, your whole week here. Not only are there meeting rooms, there's also the restaurant with an entertainment, there's spa, there's gym. Literally, you can literally do everything at the Capital Club. And also, just finally, 2 of my books, you can actually get them at the Textbook Center or New Year online stores, whereby you can actually get to learn some of my thoughts. I just don't have questions to ask, but I also have thoughts to actually share. You can actually go get my book. Thank you so much. Until next time, I'll see you right here on the Late Night Business. My name is Ian Dennis.